Welcome to News 9 Live, and you are watching On Point with me, and let me begin with the first On Point. First day of the 18th Lok Sabha opens up with fanfare. Both BJP and Congress focus on the constitution. So the question is, has Rahul been able to blunt Modi's constitution narrative? It seems that the debate on the constitution will remain at the heart of the 18th Lok Sabha. Congress was able to build a narrative around constitution during Lok Sabha elections. The Red Book. The narrative helped Congress swing SC seats on India's side. It also allowed Congress to tackle newfound Ambedkar push of Bharatiya Janata Party, and especially Prime Minister Modi. Many experts wrongly assumed that it would end the Lok Sabha elections on a different note. Prime Minister had to change his tack. Prime Minister had to change his DP. And Prime Minister had to acknowledge the centrality of the scheme of constitution, though which every politician does, but in a way that it does not get politicized. The first day of the 18th Lok Sabha started with the opposition agitating with the Red Book in hand. Prime Minister, on the other hand, spoke about the emergency and reminded people that it was Congress in 75 that suspended the constitutional rights of the people of India, habeas corpus. So first I'll play out the bite of the Prime Minister, then Mallikarjun Kharge, and then Rahul Gandhi.
आज हम 24 जून को मिल रहे हैं। कल 25 जून है। जो लोग इस देश के संविधान की गरिमा से समर्पित हैं, जो लोग भारत की लोकतांत्रिक परंपराओं पे निष्ठा रखते हैं, उनके लिए 25 जून न भूलने वाला दिवस है। कल 25 जून को भारत के लोकतंत्र में जो काला धब्बा लगा था, उसके 50 वर्ष हो रहे हैं। भारत की नई पीढ़ी इस बात को कभी नहीं भूलेगी कि भारत के संविधान को पूरी तरह नकार दिया गया था। संविधान के लीरे लीरा उड़ा दिए गए थे। देश को जेल खाना बना दिया गया था। लोकतंत्र को पूरी तरह दबोच दिया गया था। इमरजेंसी के ये 50 साल इस संकल्प के हैं कि हम गौरव के साथ हमारे संविधान की रक्षा करते हुए भारत के लोकतांत्रिक परंपराओं की रक्षा करते हुए देशवासी संकल्प लेंगे कि भारत में फिर कभी कोई ऐसी हिम्मत नहीं करेगा जो 50 साल पहले की गई थी और लोकतंत्र पे काला धब्बा लगा दिया गया था।
संविधान को बचाने के लिए हमने जो कोशिश की थी, उसमें सारी जनता हमारे साथ थी, लेकिन मोदी जी संविधान को तोड़ने की कोशिश किए। इसीलिए आज सभी पार्टी के नेता लोग एक होकर ये जो प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं, और यहाँ पर जो गांधी स्टैचू थी और वहीं पर हम प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं। मेरे बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर की वहाँ थी और गांधी जी की यहाँ थी। यानी हर नॉर्म्स को, डेमोक्रेटिक नॉर्म्स को तोड़ रहे हैं। इसीलिए आज हम ये दिखाना चाहते हैं, भाई मोदी जी आप संविधान के तहत चलिए। और इमरजेंसी के 50 साल हो रहे बोले तो तुम इमरजेंसी से विदाउट डिक्लेयरिंग इमरजेंसी यू आर डूइंग इट। इसीलिए हर बार वही बात बोल के आप कितने दिन ऐसा ही अपनी हुकूमत करना चाहते हैं।
जो आक्रमण प्रधानमंत्री जी अमित शाह जी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पर, संविधान पे कर रहे हैं, वो हमारे लिए एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं है, वो हम होने नहीं देंगे। इसीलिए हमने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ओथ लेते हुए हमने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पकड़ा था। धन्यवाद।
आपको लगता है आपका संदेश जाएगा? संदेश
हमारा संदेश जा रहा है और हिंदुस्तान के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को कोई शक्ति नहीं छू सकती है। धन्यवाद।
कि कल काला दिवस है, कल इमरजेंसी की बात ही कर रहे हैं।
ये देखिए,
So the big question is, why has constitution become so important? Then the debate is also complex that this constitution narrative actually impacted the seats, SC seats, scheduled caste seats, but it did not impact the SC seats, but that's for latter. But the bigger question is, has Rahul Gandhi cornered Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the constitution debate? Because on the day when the Prime Minister went to the Central Hall, when he addressed his MPs, there was a specific photograph of Prime Minister bowing down to the Constitution, and subsequently it became part of his DP. Even that day I did this debate. There has something changed. Is this one issue on which the opposition has tasted success? On this debate I am joined by Ajit Jha, senior journalist, my colleague Sudha Sadanand and Brijesh Pandey. So Ajit, first to you. Do you think that this debate on the constitution is going to persist? And why do you think that the opposition feels that it's going to pay them dividends even now?
Yes, I mean the opposition brought the constitution, protecting the constitution, and I would argue a rights-based approach to the constitution, which means that the constitution guarantees and protects the rights of poor people, of scheduled castes, of scheduled tribes, of minorities, of all kinds of underprivileged people. They brought that aspect of the constitution during the election, tasted success, which we saw in the movement of the scheduled caste voters in states like Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and other parts of the country. And the whole issue, the way the Rahul Gandhi and the entire India alliance spoke about the constitution as if the BJP were to come to power with 400 numbers, they would change the constitution, remove reservation. So that is very central to the debate. In fact, I just wanted to add an academic point here that Rohit Day, a Yale historian who wrote a brilliant book recently called A People's Constitution, argues that as people used to say, Indian constitution is an elite document, is false. In fact, if you look at the earlier judgments of the Supreme Court, there were ordinary people like butchers, like sex workers, journalists, women workers, who went to the court, to the Supreme Court, arguing that if you do anti-cow slaughter, our constitutionally guaranteed right of livelihood is taken away. So his argument, Rohit Day argues that the constitution provided enormous protection to the poorest of the poor. And I think that Rahul Gandhi and the India alliance has brought that during the campaign and then in parliament today. And what we see in the screen right now.
There are three parts of the discussion. There are three parts of the discussion. The first part is, has Rahul Gandhi been able to corner Prime Minister Narendra Modi? Sudha.
Yeah, I think yes, and it's tit for tat. Prime Minister Modi also, invoked the emergency 1975, where they said never before a draconian law like that had seen journalists and everyone else behind jail. The early morning knock on the door. It was terrible, so it's tit for tat. Did it have an impact, Kartikeya? That's the question you are asking. Absolutely. You spoke about the STs and the backwards, but the point is, we're forgetting that the minorities also, this kind of bogey which was raised, that your 4% reservation will be taken, which Chandrababu, of course, in the south said, no, I will not take it. It actually mobilized Muslims to go towards the I.N.D.I.A bloc. So the thing is, the only thing which makes you and me equal in this country is the Samvidhan, the constitution, and that has now become the kernel of the argument on both sides.
Brijesh.
Well, it has. I think, I would take the argument a bit before the elections ended. I think one of the most unique thing about 24 general election was that for the first time, the Prime Minister was not able to set any narrative. And for the first time, it was Rahul Gandhi who unwittingly set the narrative, and Prime Minister was forced to follow it. And Rahul Gandhi was ably aided and assisted by few Iran BJP MPs who helped them to put forward this argument to the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and all, is that if we need 400 seats to change the constitution. Now, you don't need 400 seats to change the constitution. So, what do you need those numbers to change it for? The Congress was then able to sell it that if you give them 400, it will help them tinker with reservations in the constitution. And what we saw today in the parliament, Kartikeya, is something which we are going to witness non-stop for the next 5 years.
Okay, my second question, again for all my three panelists, Ajit, to you. Do you think that when we talk about the constitution, people just don't limit it to reservation? Do you think that when we talk about constitution, people also voted in context of BJP talking about one nation, one poll, presidentializing, and I'm using the word, presidentializing the federal political processes in this country? And that raked up the deep-rooted anxiety of being run everything from Delhi.
Yes. In fact, the whole argument of one nation, one election is actually contravening the basic structure of the constitution. Why? Because the federal framework guarantees, just like the mandate of Lok Sabha for 5 years, similarly, it guarantees the mandate of an assembly for 5 years. The moment you impose one nation, one election, you're going to rob away the mandate of the assembly. So in a way, you are contravening the basic structure of the constitution. So that was as central as the reservation, as central as protection of minority rights, the minorities' economic rights. Now we also have guaranteed employment and other issues. So it brings back the liberal basic argument. State versus the individual. The protection of the individual is provided by the constitution against this leviathan called the state. It brings back that debate into the main arena, and I think it's a very positive development. It's almost like the development that you see in Europe or in America, where the constitution is taken as the central document. I think the opposition really scored over the BJP in this election, and on the first day of parliament, I would have preferred the Prime Minister Modi to start on a more positive note rather than keep reminding the country of the emergency, of which the Congress has already apologized in public. It would be much better if he would have talked about the 100 days of,
let me take this question to Sudha now. Let me take this question to Sudha. Do you think when we talk about constitution, people are also talking about presidentializing India's political processes?
All right, so let me break it down, because for those folks who do not understand it to such an extent, it is basically about absolute power. Means we shall be, our faces will be on the ground. We shall be completely dominated by these powers to be. And I think Rahul Gandhi has really worked very well on that paranoia. He's created this kind of neurosis that if they get so many seats, they will change the constitution as they want to. And beyond that, I think the poor, the marginalized, those who do not have social agency, they do feel very paranoid. And I think there I would agree with what Ajit said, that they've created a narrative, and also Brijesh said it will be there for 5 years. It's because they have created, Rahul has created, they have the book, they will do it. When I have the book, I will not do it.
See, I don't see people getting worked up and decided to vote for India alliance because of one nation, one poll thing. I think, the reason why there was such a strong reaction to the entire gig was that for the first time, people were literally afraid of one thing, that they might be, tinkering with the constitution, and by tinkering with the constitution, you meant only one thing, which was that you will do away with reservation which is provided to us. Otherwise,
so basically you're saying basically reservation was heart of the
reservation was perhaps the heart mind of the entire gig which was playing out. Because Prime Minister Narendra Modi is considered to be a very strong leader. Everybody, most of his people who vote for Prime Minister are also people who would have loved to see him be the Prime Minister for next five more years. So they were not that concerned about one nation, one poll. But they were very, very concerned about the tinkering.
Ajit, there are two things here. There are two things here, and I think that's the heart of the debate today. In 2005, when I was in Hyderabad, the Congress plenary was taking place, Rahul Gandhi gave a small bhashan. It was, I think, a 7-minute or a 7.5-minute bhashan. And the only part which I remember clearly is, he said, my religion is national flag. So when you bring the constitution, you're not just bringing a book. You are actually letting the constitutional morality be the central fiber of Indian politics. Okay. So when we, and I'm expanding this debate now, and all of you can come in. When we say constitutional morality, what is constitutional morality? Something dictated by the constitution of this country. So when I say constitutional morality, it becomes patriotism. It becomes patriotism, constitutional nationalism. Do you think that Rahul Gandhi feels that by pushing this book, he is reaffirming the place of constitutional nationalism, and he can very well counter the cultural nationalism which Bharatiya Janata Party has been riding on, which often runs contrary to the constitutional fiber? Ajit.
Yes, absolutely. I would completely agree with that. In fact, the Bharatiya Janata Party always made this argument, not only the Prime Minister and the BJP, but important writers, who wrote in the name of who are basically BJP supporters, that the BJP brought the civilization, the Hindu civilization, the Sanatan civilization as more important than the constitution. That is precisely why they attack national leaders like Nehru, even sometimes Mahatma Gandhi. The Congress and the India alliance, on the other hand, turned the entire equation. We are all Hindus, of course, but the constitution is what guides our republican morality, our legal morality. That law is more important than any individual, be it even the Prime Minister. So this whole aspect that, the hero worship.
No, you use the important word. You use the most important word. Constitution is written for an individual. The constitution does not acknowledge communities like that. Any constitution is about individual right.
Absolutely.
That's right. The protection of individual right, as I argued, the protection of an individual against the leviathan called the state. How do you as an individual fight that, especially if you are powerless, especially if you are poor? That's why I talked about the book of, Rohit Dey, who argues that India's constitution is actually one of a great document which empowered the poor. Don't call it an elite document. That is the point that Rahul Gandhi is making. That is the point that Congress is making.
Ajit, I feel that that's what I said, that the poor and the marginalized may not understand the difference, because the poor, like you say, they are all equal when it comes to the Samvidhan, the constitution. But the way it is delivered, there is a big dichotomy in this. This Congress party, which is today holding the constitution and kind of, paying obeisance, they are also the same party, which plays politics according to caste. They give you more seats because there are more of your caste people in a particular region. But yes, it's almost like the last paper that I have as an individual, which will prove, doesn't consider my gender, my religion or any ideology, but treats me as much as the next person who's standing.
And so there is also one thing. Yes, absolutely, people are right to blame the Congress party for emergency. But there is an amendment that has taken place, which means that you cannot have internal emergency in this country. So when people say that, this might get repeated, we'll ensure this will not be repeated. There was an amendment done by Morarji Bhai's government.
Nobody understands that. See, please try to understand that.
He made it impossible.
No. What we are trying to discuss is that, it was made impossible that you cannot shift MLAs and make sure that the government falls. It happened in case of Maharashtra, where the Supreme Court argued that was from A to E, you were wrong, but since you do F, so you are doomed. So, there's always a procedure with which you can circumvent the law, which is the established law of the place. What I'm trying to say is that the good thing which the India alliance did was that they were able to do something for which only Modi was known for the last 10 years, which is how do you communicate your complex idea or your idea to the common people. This time they were the one who were able to communicate that Samvidhan khatre mein hai. And because of Samvidhan khatre mein hai, desh bhi khatre mein ho jayega aur ye dictatorship lagu ho jayegi. See, 2014, 2019, nobody was bothered about dictatorship. Schemes like demonetization happened, hundreds of people died. Did it affected the Prime Minister's vote bank? No, it did not. So, there was a clear-cut acceptance of what the Prime Minister was saying. This time it didn't happen because a major chunk of the voter felt that reservation is in danger. It was not the constitution they were so overtly worried about. It was the reservation they was worried about, and that is the reason why it boomeranged badly on the Bharatiya Janata Party.
So the question is that, Ajit, RSS has very deeply in an organized way, worked in the SC/ST constituencies. So the question is, despite the commitment of BJP and the RSS when it comes to the reservation, why does it become suspect in one go? It became a suspect in one go in 2015, and again it became a suspect. Why does this happen? Do we miss something in the narrative?
No, obviously the Sangh, the BJP would not want a caste hierarchy within the Hindu division because it affects the whole Hindu, the creation of Hindutva vote bank. But what I wanted to argue, what Brijesh pointed out, reservation is very important. Yes, in people's perception, reservation was very important, especially for scheduled caste, even for MBCs and OBCs. I think that is very important. But remember, the constitution was also used symbolically, very powerful, by the farmers' movement. If you remember during 2020-21, farmers bringing the constitution every day and arguing that it is their right which the state is trying to take away. Similarly, if you look at various people's
Ajit, in politics there are two things. It's like your mother. It's like saying, "नहीं तुम्हें जाओ, मुझे कोई ज़रूरत नहीं, मैं काम खुद कर लूँगी." It's like saying कि it's like she wants you to do it, but she'll not say it. I'm just giving you like an example. It's an example. मैं खुद कर लूँगी, but इसका ये मतलब नहीं आप चले जाइए. इसका मतलब है आप बिन पूछे वो काम कर लीजिए. इसका ये मतलब होता है. ये माकस नहीं होता, इसका मतलब ये होता है. So when people say constitution, do we limit it to reservation? It also means that a large segment is not enjoying political unilateralism. For example, was there a committee when the parliament construction, the design of the parliament was made? Was there a committee when they decided to move the statue of Mahatma Gandhi? So I think when we talk in reference to constitution, it means a lot of things to a lot of people.
So absolutely, and add to that what you pointed out, add to that the fact that when in Uttar Pradesh, for example, you bulldoze the house of minorities, you are taking away the right to property, without consulting them. Same thing when you remove people's, hutments and wherever they go together and stay, you just simply bulldoze those. You're taking away their rights. You're taking away their rights to livelihood, which is an important constitutional right today. So all that clubs together along with reservation. The reservation issue obviously, showed great success during the election. But you will see this ringing on and on during legal judgments. When people take cases into the Supreme Court, you will see the same thing. The Constitution today has become the Bhagavad Gita of India. All the people will take the Constitution rights very seriously, and we are seeing a radical transformation in that. The fact that individual rights trumps over any other aspect of our Constitution, that's what makes the Constitution sacrosanct.
Fair enough. So that, do you think that this debate will also help one or resolve or put to rest or dilute communitarian approach towards politics? ये हमारी जाति का सम्मान खराब कर दिया, ये हमारी कम्युनिटी के खिलाफ है. Laws, culture.
No. If that ends, then I will not wish it upon you, but I will not exist. Community politics, caste-based politics is the heart and soul of this country. That will never go away. All I'm saying
is why I said dilute.
It will not. Look, even this is based on fear. The entire debate is based on paranoia, neurosis and fear. Oh, they will, kind of hold the constitution and say it's mine. Now, who are you? I may marginalize you. Similarly, the community kind of, creating that bogey of you are mine and you will get marginalized. Everything is around paranoia and neurosis. It's not going to happen so easily. But for the poor, it's like कुछ भी होता है, ये भी ना हो जाए हमारे साथ.
So if you're arguing it's primarily about reservation, the question is why reservation? No political party has the capacity to do away with it.
No, no party has. But the point is whether you are able to sell this to your voter or not. They were able to. And why they were able to is because, I laugh when, when many BJP leaders or spokespersons say that it is a false narrative which is pushed by Congress party. They were helped by BJP MPs. Lallu Kumar, who is the ex-BJP MP from Faizabad, he was the one who said it. Pratap Simha, he was the first one to say it. Diya Kumari, who was the Deputy Chief Minister, she said it. There are at least 10 BJP MPs who said that Acharya Pramod, who Krishnan, who shifted from Congress
Okay.
to BJP,
Okay.
in his Kalki Dham said that I need 400 to change the constitution. When people themselves are saying it, all you required was to channelize the energy. And that is the reason why they were able to
So,
win.
Ajit, are we to say that the so-called concept of what's the word? Subaltern Hindutva dead? I mean, so that was being argued, na? Subaltern Hindutva after 2017. So this challenges the concept of subaltern Hindutva. That was being propounded, na? That there is something called subaltern Hindutva. Then what happens to that?
So it's not subaltern Hindutva as such, it's subaltern citizenship. All citizens belonging to any religion, any caste, community or individual, if they feel that their constitutionally guaranteed rights are taken away by this leviathan called the state, by people who are in power and become more and more powerful, then they will go either during an election, they'll get rid of the incumbent, or they'll go to Supreme Court and try and get their protection.
Okay,
back.
but Karthikeya, there's
That
also,
is what is
there's also
central to the
a
debate.
contrarian view. The point is that please don't analyze the result of the election purely because, you know, because of the reservation. The subaltern Hindutva and the project is not dead. It is not even limping. It is right there where it was in its all almighty. What is happening is course corrections are being done. A message is being sent to center that you cannot take us for granted. There's schism within the party. The much fabled communication, which was the Prime Minister's prerogative that you can sell anything like selling fish to the Eskimo, that has blunted. So these are the various factors which are.
So basically, you're
if
saying,
if you
so
course
basically
correct it, subaltern Hindutva
so
will be
basically
back
you're
in
saying
its.
that there is no problem in the hardware. There was a problem in the
Absolutely,
software.
And also,
Absolutely,
by two
absolutely.
senses, it's
Otherwise-
not even subaltern. It will be the main narrative.
Achha, it will be the main
Yes.
narrative. So this, thank you, Ajay. Thank you so much for joining me. So this was on point number 1. And on point number 2 is JP Nadda criticizes Congress over stoic silence on Tamil Nadu's hooch tragedy.